understand the reasons behind this horrible massacre, we must first journey back to the Roaring Twenties. In 1920, the United States banned the production and sale of alcohol through the 18th Amendment, also known as the Volstead Act, or most commonly, Prohibition. But Americans didn't stop drinking. Instead, Prohibition created a massive black market worth millions of dollars. And nowhere was this more lucrative than in the great city of Chicago. The Windy City became a battleground for criminal organizations fighting to control this underground empire. By the mid-1920s, gang violence had exploded. Authorities counted 16 gang-related murders in 1924 alone. But this wasn't random violence. Two powerful gangsters dominated Chicago's underworld, locked in a deadly struggle for supremacy. On one side, Al Scarface Capone, the flamboyant Italian-American crime boss who controlled Chicago's South Side. Born in Brooklyn, Capone had inherited the Chicago outfit from his mentor, Johnny Torrio, in 1925. By the late 20s, his syndicate was earning tens of millions annually from bootlegging, gambling, and racketeering. His rival, George "Bugs" Moran, the volatile Irish-American leader of the North Side Gang, his nickname Bugs, signified his unpredictable, dangerous temperament. These weren't just business competitors, this was personal. The feud began in earnest in November 1924, when North Side boss Dean O'Banion was assassinated in his flower shop by Torrio's men. O'Banion's death ignited a gang war that would rage for years. His successors, first Jaime Weiss, then Bugs Moran, continued the fight for revenge. Throughout the 1920s, Chicago's streets became a war zone. Both sides traded brutal attacks. Capone's headquarters in Cicero was riddled with over 1,000 bullets in one drive-by ambush by Moran's gunmen. Moran's gang hijacked Capone's liquor shipments and muscled into his businesses. They even took over speakeasies and a dog racing track that Capone claimed as his territory. In 1928, the violence reached new heights. Moran's gang was allegedly behind the murders of two Capone allies, mafia bosses Pasqualino Patsy Lolordo and Antonio Tony the Scourge Lombardo. According to some accounts, Moran even placed a $50,000 bounty on Capone's head. For Capone, this was the final straw. The Chicago crime boss was done playing games. Capone decided that he would end this war once and for all. February 14th, 1929. The SMC Carthage Company garage on North Clark Street, a known North Side gang hangout. Moran's men had been lured there by an offer too good to refuse, a cut-rate shipment of hijacked Canadian whiskey. What they didn't know was that it was a trap, meticulously planned by Capone's organization. At approximately 10:30 a.m., 7 men gathered in the cold garage, waiting for their illegal cargo. But Bugs Moran himself was running late. As he approached the garage, he spotted what looked like a police car. Assuming it was a raid, Moran kept walking and ducked into a nearby coffee shop. That split-second decision would save his life. 4 armed men burst into the garage. 2 wore police uniforms. 2 were dressed as plainclothes officers. They ordered Moran's 7 men to line up against the brick wall, hands raised. Moran's men grumbled, but complied. They expected a little routine harassment, nothing more. Then the gunmen opened fire. Approximately 70 rounds from Thompson submachine guns tore through the victims. To ensure no survivors, the killers delivered shotgun blasts to the fallen men's faces. In a final theatrical touch, witnesses saw the police officers leading their accomplices out at gunpoint. It looked like arrests were being made. All 4 men escaped in the stolen police car, leaving behind 7 bodies and a crime scene that would shock America. Al Capone had a perfect alibi. He was at his Florida residence during the massacre, but nobody believed he wasn't behind it.
Yeah, only Capone kills like that.
Only Capone kills like that, Moran told reporters, openly blaming his arch-rival. When reached in Miami for comment, Capone responded with typical arrogance.
Baloney. Complete baloney. There's nothing to that rumor. No violent acts have been committed by myself or anybody in my organization, and I'll tell you why, because it's not good business. Man, they don't call that guy Bugs for nothing.
But the massacre's notoriety brought intense federal scrutiny. Unable to prove Capone's involvement in the murders, authorities instead pursued him for tax evasion. In 1931, the once untouchable Public Enemy Number 1 was convicted and sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. With most of his top lieutenants dead, Bugs Moran's power was broken. He could no longer hold his territory and fled the city of Chicago. The once feared gang leader was reduced to small-time robberies. He was eventually arrested for bank robbery in 1946 and died of lung cancer in Leavenworth Prison in 1957. But the violence wasn't over. 7 years to the day after the massacre, Machine Gun Jack McGurn, a key Capone hitman suspected of organizing the attack, was gunned down in a Chicago bowling alley. The hit came via submachine gun fire, mirroring the massacre itself. Though never proven, underworld sources credited the revenge killing to Moran's remaining associates. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre marked the beginning of the end for Chicago's gang wars. The public outrage it generated gave federal authorities the mandate they needed to dismantle organized crime. More than 90 years later, the massacre remains one of America's most infamous crimes, a brutal reminder of an era when criminals believed they were above the law. 7 men died that cold February morning, victims of a gang war that ultimately consumed everyone it touched. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre proved that in the criminal underworld, victory often comes at the highest price. In the end, there were no winners, only ghosts of Chicago's bloodiest Valentine.